What if I told you that two of Sony's most popular full-frame cameras, the Sony A74 and the Sony A7C II, are almost perfect, but not quite? You see, I've been shooting with each one for years now, both as a hobby and professionally, and today I want to share my honest opinion about each model, the good, the bad, and whether they're still worth buying, or if there's actually something better lurking out there. So this camera right here, the A74, is actually my main camera for photography, and actually my videos too. And many of my all-time best photos are shot on this bad boy right here. The A7C II, on the other hand, it shares the same sensor as this one, but it's still a little bit different. More on that later. It is also a camera that I've used a ton, and I've captured so many good photos with it throughout the years. Now, two of the most common questions I get is one, if people should buy these cameras, or people that already have these cameras, if they should upgrade, or maybe there's something better that they should pick. I think they feel like they've outgrown their little cameras, you know? Now, lucky for you, my friend, I do have some strong opinions there, and I'll also share with you why I'm still using these cameras. Anyway, let's start with taking a look at the specs. What do these bad boys pack under the hood? Now, both are equipped with a 33 megapixel full-frame sensor. It's capable of capturing detailed and sharp photos, and there's actually plenty of room to crop to. Now, they can also film 4K 10-bit footage up to 60 frames per second. That's pretty nice. Also, these are Sony cameras, so both have excellent autofocus capabilities, real-time tracking and all that. This one has slightly better, I'll tell you what and why in a second. And they're equipped with a 5-axis in-body image stabilization, while again, the A7C II is slightly better there too. I'll tell you that too in a little bit. On top of that, you find a flip-out screen, LCD screen like this here. You have a viewfinder and a shutter as a little bad joke. Now, neither one of these two cameras are 100% perfect. There are some trade-offs, and later on in the video, I will tell you my gripes with them and what I haven't liked. But to start with, the 60 frames per second that you get on this camera is actually cropped, so keep that in mind. But in short, both of these cameras are excellent choice if you want a camera that does photos and videos really, really well. They might be overkill for many casual shooters, but that's totally up to you and your budget and what you want to have. By the way, if you want to level up your photo editing skills, then I made a free 33-day email series, one short tip a day that will massively help you become a better photo editor. It's totally free and you can find it in the description down below. Now on to the next part, key differences. So if these cameras do have the same sensor and they're kind of the same camera, what makes them different? Now, the first obvious thing is the size. The size of the A7C II is ridiculously small, while the A74 is a much bigger and has this classic Sony full-frame body. Now, I want to double-click too again on the size here. When this camera launched, the A7C II, it was the smallest full-frame camera on the market, if I remember correctly. Feel free to correct your favorite Icelandic friend if I'm, saying some bullshit here. But every time that I use it and I take it out with me, I'm always floored that a full-frame camera is this small. It is kind of the same size as the Sony A6700, which is Sony's flagship APS-C camera. Now, there are more things that differentiate them. The viewfinder is bigger on the A74. It has a bigger resolution and it's just better in general, while this one is tiny and small. Now, I do want to point out there that the viewfinder on the bigger camera, even though it's better than this one, is not like the best on the market, and I'll touch more on that a little bit later. Another thing that differentiates both these cameras is that the A74 has dual SD card slot, and it can have an CF Express SD card if you want that too. Dual SD card slot is really nice, especially if you're doing professional works where under no circumstances you're allowed to mess up your SD card. For instance, a wedding. I've shot a few weddings in my life, and it's always a stress with the SD card. I'm like, okay, this is not allowed to break. Imagine going to the bride and being like, hey, the best day of your life, remember that? Yeah, you hired me, paid me a lot of money, to shoot it. Can we reshoot the whole thing? Wouldn't fly, Also another thing, the stabilization. Now, I said before that both are equipped with a 5-axis in-body stabilization, which is great. This makes handheld shot both as photo and video a little bit more smoother, little bit smoother. That's better English. But this one, the smaller camera, has actually 7 stops of stabilization, while this one only has 5.5. Only. It's a good stabilization, but this one is a slightly better. Also, the autofocus is a little bit different too. The A74 has great autofocus. Sony is known for having the best autofocus on the market, and they're constantly improving it. And I remember when I touched this one first, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. This one is upgraded with Sony's AI processing unit. And I know AI is a massive buzzword and whatnot, but this camera can recognize and map out your subjects and knows where they are and can keep things in focus that way. It is great. Good, great. When it comes to the autofocus, when the performance and all that, it might be a little bit different. Anyhow, in short, the A7C II is more compact and more modern kind of, while the A74 is bulkier but more, can I do one of these, pro. It also has slightly better handling and connectivity and some other juicy stuff that we will dive into. Now, before I dive into why I love these cameras and why I'm still using them, and then also, of course, what I don't like about these cameras, then let's first talk about who each of these cameras is actually for. Now, the Sony A7C IV is ideal for photographers and creators who want one camera that handles both high-quality stills and videos, with my friend pro-level features like dual SD card slots and some robust ergonomics. Roll the R's with me there, man, you know? This is Icelandic. If you know how to roll your R's, you're on a good way to talk good Icelandic. Now, the Sony A7C II then, on the other hand, is great for creators on the move, travelers, vloggers, or street shooters who want full-frame performance in a compact, lightweight body without sacrificing key features. Basically, if you enjoy slightly bigger grip and you want dual SD card slots and you're fine with not having all of the most modern features, then the A7 IV is fantastic. Personally, this is my main camera, although I use this. Why? Because I really enjoy this grip. I like it a lot. I'm fine with this small grip too. Sigma invited me to Japan earlier this year for the launch of their BF camera, and this was the only camera that I carried with me because I wanted the lightweight and compact camera, and I did want a full frame system because I knew that I was going to do some low light photography in Tokyo during night. So I took this with me. No problem, but it is smaller, which is a double-edged sword. Yes, lighter weight, but also it is a little bit better, in my opinion, or more enjoyable to hold a little bit bigger camera. That's me, maybe not you. So what is it that I love about this camera so much, and why am I still using it and haven't upgraded to a Sony A7 R Mark V or an A1 Mark II or whenever one of these big professional cameras? That's a question that I often get. So the first thing that I really like about these cameras is that these are both so-called hybrid cameras. They're great at taking photos and videos. They're not the best at photos, they're not the best at videos, but they do both really well. Now, I'm a professional landscape photographer. I figured out how to make a living doing landscape photos, which is fantastic. That is pretty hard to do. And I do that through social media, both in the realm of teaching, I love teaching, and also through selling prints or creating videos where I take you guys with me on landscape photography adventures. And for that, I need to film a lot of videos. I mean, heck, I'm filming a video here right now. And that's where these two cameras come in great hand, because I don't have to carry with me two cameras, one for video, one for photo when I'm out in the field. I can easily switch between photo, video on these cameras. And that is another thing that I've always appreciated about these cameras is with both, with just a flick of a button, you can switch between photo, video, and S&Q. And also you have memory recall. You see this here? You have 1, 2, and 3. This allows me to have presets my settings. So for instance, in photography, I have 1 set to RAW, and then 2 I set to JPEG. So I can quickly switch between JPEG and RAW. And in video, I have one on 25 FPS, the other one 50 FPS, 4K, and then in the third I have 120 FPS Full HD. Very, 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 very simple. Another thing, in the realms of full frame cameras, these are quite affordable. I know that they're not the cheapest camera out there, and I'm not making this video saying that they are. Everything in photography is super expensive. Welcome to this hobby of ours, you know? But they're so much more affordable than, for example, the flagship cameras. And that's fantastic because it allows a lot of people to get into the Sony full frame ecosystem if they want to. Another thing that it also always made me happy is the 33 megapixel sensor. 33 megapixel, in my opinion, it's kind of the sweet spot. It's not, of course, a 60 megapixel beast where you're able to just shoot whatever and then crop in, but it's also not a 24 megapixel camera. You have some or a lot more wiggle room when it comes to cropping and post-production, which is something that I do enjoy. So I think it's a nice little sweet spot there with the 33 megapixel. Now the image quality is also great. As I said earlier in this video, many of my best photos are shot on this camera. And also this one too. I have nothing to complain about there. And the reason I'm showing both in this video is that they are kind of the same. You will just have to decide whether you want slightly bigger body with some features that this doesn't have, or a smaller body with some features that this doesn't have. I know it's not easy, but you will figure it out. And when it comes to video, one thing that I've always think is really cool is that this is actually oversampled 4K footage that it films, which means the camera is actually filming 7K footage, then it then downsamples to 4K. So it is really good quality 4K footage, and I've tried this side by side from other cameras that I have, and this one is so crisp. Now there are a bunch of other things that have made me stick to these cameras. The autofocus is fantastic, like out of this world. The lenses that I choose, both the Sony G Master lenses, they're pretty expensive, but the E-mount system, you have so many different third-party lenses that are great. I own a bunch of Sigma lenses. They're fantastic. And lately, I've heard people talk about Viltrox, which makes cheap lenses that are good too. So there are so many different lenses you could choose from if you have a Sony body, which is something that I like. But they're not perfect. And although I wish that this was a 100% perfect camera, and this one too, then there ain't. And there are some things that I dislike about them. By the way, all of the photos that I'm throwing up here throughout this video are all edited using my presets as a base. It not only speeds up my workflow tremendously, but it also gives me a color and tones that I really like and can keep it consistent throughout multiple different edits. If you're interested, you can find it for a little money down in the description down below. But better yet, you can also find my master bundle, which is all of my digital products. I'm talking all of my presets, all of my LUTs, all of my templates, all of my overlays and everything else bundled into one pack. At the moment, it's on a great price. I'm not sure for how long I will run it like this, but you can also find that in the description down below. So, what is it then that I don't like about these cameras? For starters, when it comes to filming, both of these suffer from a lot of rolling shutter. So when you're doing your pan shots, or you have moving objects that move fast in between, or fast like through the scene, they will get this wobbly effect. It's not that pleasing, and I don't like it at all. It's a limitation, and you just have to learn how to use it. Another thing that I've heard people talk about is that they don't think that the viewfinder is good enough compared to other camera brands. Now, I'll be completely honest, I've been stuck with Sony cameras for the last 9 years, so I haven't been looking a lot around on other cameras since I last had the Canon 60D. So I don't really know, but this is something that I hear, and I just want to let you guys know about that too. People are also complaining about the LCD screen. They think it is not good enough. I can see my photos, and to me that is good enough, but there are apparently brands out there that do it better for this price point. I've also noticed that other brands have been stepping up a lot in their mid-range and low-tier cameras, while Sony has been focusing on their flagship models. So I've heard that you can get better bang for your buck when it comes to these entry-level cameras. Something to keep in mind too. Another thing I want to say too with Sony cameras is that sometimes they feel a bit clinical. What that means is that they are really good. The autofocus is spot on, they work really well, you can shoot a lot of photos. On this you only have, I think, 10 or 11 burst frames per second only, but there are Sony cameras out there that have 120 frames per second with a global shutter, which is absolutely nuts, and pre-shooting and everything. But that means that they get your photos really well, and they do a lot of things for you. I had a little chat yesterday with a photographer in my photo community. I run like a photo community for photographers. It's called The Darkroom. And this photographer, his name is Dan, he switched his Sony A1, which is a fantastic camera, for a much more older, cheaper Fuji camera, because it allowed him to slow down, because he had to think a lot more about composition, the slower megapixels, the camera is slower, he has to think more about the focus, because the camera isn't just nailing the focus all the time, and in his opinion, it allowed him to get better photos, because he had to think more and be more in the moment, you understand? While this kind of, you can kind of spray and pray and you're gonna get a good photo. Not saying that you should do that, but you understand where I'm going, right? Now you're probably sitting there wondering to yourself, why haven't I liked this video? This ginger guy with his fierce beard should get a like. So smack that like button for me. But you also might be wondering, should you buy one of these cameras? And if so, which one of these is a perfect fit for you? Well, here's what I always said. If you value small and compact, then go with the A7C II. It's really hard to beat in that category, and this silver design, it looks really sexy. But if you do prefer a bigger body, slightly better heat control, better ergonomics, dual SD card slots and things that come with that, then my friend, the A7 IV is definitely for you. Whichever one you choose, you'll be happy. I mean, both are great. However, you might want to wait just a little bit longer. And if you really want to find the perfect Sony camera for you, then I made a video breaking down my top picks for the best first Sony camera to pick in this day and age. Check it out here.